This is the Pipkin and Turnbull Show. It is December 12th, or December 12th. It is December 17th, 2019. Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you guys are doing all well. It is not the 12th. We are the 17th. We're almost to Christmas, man.
Yeah,
Almost
buddy.
to almost to Saturday. Jamie can't see this, but he's got it on his background on his walls. But I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt for Friday for some Rise of Skywalker in honor of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what
Yes.
we're all about this week. So getting that's our Christmas, man. That's gonna be
Oh my
epic.
gosh.
So
I can't
yeah,
wait.
yeah. So we got a lot of great things for y'all today, and we get to talk about some NBA. It's kind of starting to flesh out. Some things are starting to pan out on the NBA side. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. But Jamie, you want to fill us in on what
Mhm.
we're talking about today?
All right, man. We're going over power rankings, NFL power rankings. Top five teams. We're gonna look at the AFC and the NFC playoffs, and just kind of how that's shaking out, um, and maybe some who's still fighting for that last wild card spot. And then we're gonna look at some games in the NFL that kind of surprised us, and I get to finally talk about the Chiefs beating the Patriots, which is gonna be great. And then we're going to. It's time to go bowling. College football's wrapping up, and we've got bowling, the bowl games going on, and just gonna look at the ones that I would recommend watching, and then we'll look at the college football playoffs, and might see what we're thinking on that, and then we're gonna look at the NBA. As Caleb said, it's really starting to teams are starting to separate. The top from the bottom teams, and we're gonna look at one of those surprise bottom teams in Golden State, and just kind of talk about why we think that they're just not at the top like they have been. And we're going to look at who can beat the Lakers. Lakers are one of the best teams in the West and a threat to go to the finals. And then we're going to look at the East and see who's the top team in the East. So with that, let's go into the power rankings.
Yeah, let's do it. Um, So, kind of holding the number one spot again this week is the Baltimore Ravens from the incredible man himself, Mr. Lamar Jackson, leading that charge. Had a huge win
Yeah.
against the Jets. Uh, and one of my
Yeah.
thing about the Ravens as this season starting to kind of wind down, I the biggest thing I would say is I believe Lamar is a great passer, and has definitely improved tremendously over since last year and through the course of this season, and with the Ravens figuring out how they want to play Lamar and figuring out the system. My thing is going into the playoffs, is there a defense that can make Lamar Jackson one dimensional? And is that the biggest fear for the Ravens at this point? They get into a playoff game and suddenly you take out the running game of Lamar Jackson. Does that is that the biggest thing that Ravens team have to deal with? But then also
Mm-hmm.
the defense has been up and down this year. I will say though, they've been trending towards getting a lot better than at the start of the season. But
Mm-hmm.
that's my question mark with Baltimore. Um, and my thing, when you go up against the Chiefs or you go up against the Patriots, if you get one dimensional, are you going to be able to beat those teams? And I didn't know what your thoughts were.
I mean, the last team to beat the Ravens was the Chiefs in Week 3, and my thing is yeah, Lamar's passing has gotten better, but I still don't rely on it, and I don't think the Ravens really rely on it either. So if you want to beat the Ravens, you need to jump out to a quick lead and get a couple of stops, stop them a couple times, and just keep scoring. Got to keep scoring. Make him throw, because that's when you can beat the Ravens. The Ravens thing is they control the game though. They'll control the clock. They'll run, 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 and when you think they're going to pass, they're going to run some more. And then when you think they're going to run, they're probably going to run. And so if you can get out to a quick lead like the Chiefs did, um, you can beat them. It's just being able. The defense has to step up and stop them. If it's third and short, you gotta stop them, because if you let them control the clock, your offense isn't going to see the field. The Texans did that to the Chiefs. The Colts did that to the Chiefs. And the best way to beat the Chiefs is the same way you need to beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, is keep the offense off the field. And I so like a lot of people are really scared of the Ravens, and I don't necessarily think they're the best team in the NFL, but they're good, but they're beatable. And but you just got to do what I said. Like, you gotta just, every chance you get to get points, you do it. Because if you try to go toe to toe with the Ravens, you're probably going to lose that game, because Lamar Jackson. I I'm not a big fan of the scrambling quarterbacks like Jackson, Vic, Kaepernick. I'm not a big fan of those guys, but when they're hot, they're hot, and you can't stop them. And that's why I think Lamar. I mean, he's an odds-on MVP favorite at this point. But I don't personally trust his arm enough to where, if he throws it more than he runs it, I feel like they're going to lose the game. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's my thoughts, on that.
What's interesting is if the playoffs pan out just kind of the way that they're kind of um, somewhat looking, um, you would you would have the Ravens going up against um, well, they would get the bye. So let me rethink that thought. I was going to say the Ravens
Mm-hmm.
would be going up against the Steelers, but going to that point,
Chiefs.
it would be it would be an interesting matchup um, just to see that kind of and they'll I think they actually get a rematch here pretty soon to end off the year. Let me double check. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Steelers' defense has gotten a lot better, gotten way better over um,
Mm-hmm.
the course of the season, and does and that kind of defense I think could challenge the Ravens. But yeah, so that's my only kind of my thoughts going into the last we got this is our last week of the season, week 16, I think. Where do we go? 17.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, we got 2 more weeks.
got two more. I'm trying to see. I'm going off
Mm-hmm.
ESPN. Everybody, my internet's not working. I was like, I know we got 2 more weeks, but it's only giving me week 16, which is next week. So I'm trying to figure out what week 17 would look like. But yeah. Uh, what are some other teams that you're kind of looking at, Jamie? Even more on the NFC side, or some things that stand out to you? That's what kind of stands out to me, because there's just been so much talk about Baltimore, so much talk about this offense. How could you stop them? But I still think, and that's kind of the way the NFL season has gone this year, is we don't have anything that's clear cut going into these playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm a big fan of. I think
I'm
I'm
I'm I'm looking forward to the 49ers and Seattle game next. I think that'll be a big game, because those guys are still fighting for the division, and 49ers dropped a shocker to Atlanta, and which, again, like you just said, nothing's clear cut at this point. And so, I think that's going to be a good game. Um, and I'm looking forward to Buffalo and the Patriots game, because the Patriots don't like. they've got a good record, and they're obviously in the playoffs. They clinched last weekend, but they just seem their offense just seems off and just not clicking. Like Brady just doesn't look like he trusts his receivers like he used to. Not even Edelman. Is him and Edelman just don't seem to be on the same page. Um, but yeah, I mean it's this is probably one of the more interesting NFL seasons I've ever seen. Just out of the standpoint of teams just look different. Like some of the top teams aren't as strong. Um, and then you've got some of the like the Titans. I love the Titans this year. I think that they're still making a push to possibly get into the playoffs, which I love that. But
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
I mean,
this is just a great year.
yeah, and going off your point, I mean, Titans have looked great. Right now they're out. And this
Hmm.
if and will be out if the Steelers find a way to win out. But it kind of comes down, and
Hmm.
you were right. I was like, I knew that the last game for Pittsburgh was Baltimore because I was like, we Pittsburgh's got to win that to stay in it, and that was because this week they have a winnable game, and so if you are a Titans fan, you are rooting really hard for. Let me see who they were playing. You're rooting for the for the Jets this week to beat the Steelers.
Oh,
So
uh,
I mean, it would be pretty heartbreaking for me to see the Steelers lose to the Jets,
oh yeah.
but yeah, and even in the NFC when you were talking about it is we talk about San Francisco, we talk about Seattle and their last matchup
Mm-hmm.
right before the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs to actually tell what the seeding will look like. It's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And we've always this entire time that we've done our show, we've been going back and forth on both of these teams because the whole
Mm-hmm.
NFC kind of even when within itself kind of feels like there's just so much unknown because for one moment you're like, man, the Saints look great, and they still do. They still look great. But then
Mm-hmm.
you get into some situations where you're like, man, these Saints are gonna get beat, and same with San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco. It's like losing to the Falcons this last week. So
Yeah.
with the last second, you would think with the game on the line with your San Francisco's defense that um, you've got to have that game, and so they
Yeah.
weren't able to pull that through. Um, and then the whole thing with Dallas is going to be really interesting going into the playoffs because Dallas reminds me a lot of Seattle a couple of years ago when Seattle had that losing record, and then
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans, because New Orleans had the better record, but they had to go travel to Seattle because they won the
Yeah.
division. Um, it could happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put my bets on it, but talent wise, you can't deny that they're not talented enough or
Yeah.
don't have enough firepower to get you that kind of win.
Yeah.
And then that's my biggest thing with Dallas. Even though that they are still fighting for that division with Philadelphia, it's kind of like what we
Mm-hmm.
talked about last week. We still feel like Dallas is gonna pull that division out, but
Yeah.
with 2 weeks to go, the seedings could all change. It's
Yeah.
the AFC at this point is a little bit more clarified of how things are going to pan out. Besides that last wild card spot, and
Mm-hmm.
so there really can be no error for the Titans, for the Steelers. And so it's just super interesting. So we're gonna get into it because we didn't get into it a couple weeks ago, and that's what Jamie alluded to: uh, the Chiefs and the Patriots. Chiefs have been on a tear for these last couple of weeks. just starting
Mm-hmm.
to turn a lot around, especially on the defensive side. They're starting
Yeah.
to make it look like all the pieces that they got together are starting to look like they're kind of making sense. And I think they've got better schemes for their interior, which has helped a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest thing is I didn't realize how big for the Chiefs that Tyrann Mathieu would be for this Chiefs team. And I, I would like to get your opinion, but I feel like Tyrann Mathieu has been the biggest key to this turnaround on the secondary and kind of for this Chiefs defense, the way that it's kind of been looking and the way that he's been holding down that position. And
Mm-hmm.
my downside was about Frank Clark, but he's starting to turn it on too a little bit here at the end. So
Yeah.
that's been kind of my thing, which led up to the Patriots game. And so I'm gonna get your initial thoughts of that Patriots game.
Man, like the Patriots are the one team. Like you just it don't matter. You could go into that game undefeated and they could only have like one win and you're just gonna be like, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure us out. They're gonna beat us. And so you can't watch that a game against the Patriots and just be calm. Like if you're watching it against I don't know, like last week against the Broncos, I didn't get excited at all during that game because I was like, we're gonna beat these guys. The Patriots game is just it's another level because they've beaten us so much. And like we went to Foxborough and we won at Foxborough twice in 3 years, and so we can beat them. But it seems like here, since Mahomes has been the quarterback, they've just gotten us. And I think this win was big for the Chiefs because we just proved like okay, we can go into their place with Mahomes, with this defense, and we can beat these guys. If it comes to the playoffs and we have to go to Foxborough again, we can win. And I think that was big for this young team to just realize that they the Chiefs pressured Tom Brady 46%, and that was the highest total of all season that Brady's been pressured. And so we prove that we can go there, we can punch you in the mouth, and we can leave the winner. And I think that's so big for this Chiefs team. And you were talking about
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu. Matthew has been the leader that we've needed. We had Barry last year, but he was hurt for a majority of the season. He just wasn't the same. Matthew, he's lining up at free safety. He's lining up as a box linebacker. He's lining up in the cornerback position. You put him anywhere. You put him at defensive tackle. He played defensive tackle a couple times for the Texans last year, and you put him anywhere, he'll play and he'll make a play, and he leads the team in interceptions this year. He's just been phenomenal back there. Frank Clark, he's been actually dealing with a stomach issue, and he's been the last 2 or 3 weeks he's been in the hospital, and he's lost about 15 to 20 pounds because of the stomach issue, and he's still playing. And he said he's starting to get healthy now, and so I think that's one reason why he's been because he did an interview this week, and the doctor was like, "You shouldn't play until you're feeling better," and he's just been battling through it. And so I think now that we've got a little bit of perspective of that, and just kind of he's been dealing with a neck issue too, like a pinched nerve or something in his neck, and so he's been dealing with that since week one. And just knowing that he's going through that, and he hasn't been playing at the level that we expected, but he's still playing at a fairly high level, and
Right.
he's holding it down. And then we signed Terrell Suggs yesterday, and so adding him because we lost Alex Okafor last Sunday for the season with a torn pec. So just adding Terrell Suggs, I think is gonna on the other side of Clark, and then you got Tano, and this team is just coming together. We're coming together at the right time, because I think our last loss was the Titans, and that was just such a bad loss. Like every way you could have lost a game, the Chiefs
Right.
figured it out and did it in that
Right.
game. And so I think they just realized like, we're better than this. We're better than the teams that we're playing. We're gonna be playing Chicago Thursday night, or not Thursday, Sunday night this week. And I think they're finally, because in years past the Chiefs always um, they always just would play. I felt like playing down to the level of their competition, and I feel like now the Chiefs are like, no, we're better than you, and we're going to beat you. And I think with that attitude, that's the attitude that Matthews brought. Is like, no, we're not gonna just go out and we're gonna play patty cake with these guys. No, we're gonna punch them in the mouth, and we're gonna keep punching them in the mouth until they give up. And that is the attitude we've needed on this team, and especially on this defense for a number of years now. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Going back to the Patriots game, there was a couple calls that a lot of people, a lot of calls were missed. Then N'Keal Harry,
Yep.
like a lot of calls were missed. The N'Keal
Yeah.
Harry touchdown, being one of them.
You know what?
And I,
What was weird about that game was there were times where there were really bad calls, but then at the same time, like I liked the fact that these refs got together and tried to get the
mm,
call right and even pulled the flag back. So it was a
yeah,
really weird officiating crew because in some
yeah,
ways I was like, hey, that was a good job for them actually to get together and say, hey, that wasn't shouldn't be called, and them
yeah,
reversing that call, and getting together and doing that. But
mm,
at the same time, there was some blatant things that
yeah,
got messed up, and
yeah,
and as you know, I will root wholeheartedly against the Patriots, but I will say that there a lot of those calls did change the outcome of that game, and
mm,
that's the only aspect I hate to see is
yeah,
and I'm sure you would agree. You want to a win's a win for the Chiefs. Won.
yeah,
They played better. They were the better team, but at the same time,
mm.
you don't want to leave a game feeling like, well,
We
there's a
were gift
question.
wrapped a win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a question mark with that. But a win in
Hmm.
Foxborough, they did dominate a lot of aspects. But you would have liked to seen just knowing that the Chiefs went in there and won it outright. No
Hmm.
questions. But it was a big momentum boost.
Yeah.
You're taught. Chicago this Sunday night. It's actually going to be a good matchup. Once
Hmm.
again, to see where this team's at. Denver, I don't know what Denver is trying to do, what they're planning for in the future. There's a lot of things that were so messy with that organization, and or not
Hmm.
just the not the maybe just the team figuring out where they're going with it, and so
Yeah.
which is strange because a few years back they're a Super Bowl winner,
Yeah.
Super Bowl 50, and
Hmm.
so uh, to see kind of this decline at Denver when Denver's got pieces. That's the thing. They've got a talented defense. Probably add a couple more to that side. They have no identity on offense.
Yeah.
I think uh, I think Drew Luck is a good quarterback. He
Hmm.
can't be he's not going to be their franchise quarterback. He's just going to be what he is. I don't know
Yeah.
if you could say how much further he can expand to getting you into the playoffs, to getting you that Super Bowl, but he'll get you. He could get you there, but you're going to have to build a good. I think Philip Lindsay's a great running back. Has a down year this year, but you figure
Hmm.
out a way to get him going, that run game going a little bit more. But it was just it like you said, it just the Chiefs were just so much obviously better on
Yeah.
on Sunday against Denver. And for the Steelers, keeping it close, having having for me, with the Bills had a great win against the Steelers, clinching their berth into it.
Hmm. First time since
Yeah,
1999.
yep. And New England, gets uh, I is found cheating once again. Um,
Didn't know if we
uh,
were going to talk about that tonight.
so, but yeah, I'm just gonna get it's funny. I mean, it's the craziest thing about this whole New England dynasty is it's gonna be the most hated dynasty in football history. No
Yeah.
questions asked.
Hmm.
Because you look, Jay Glazer had it on Fox Sports, and I'm watching that footage. But at the same time, how can you possibly, with all the things that's happened, the biggest argument that the Patriots have is like, but at the same time, I was like, they had to have been up to something. But how could the
Yeah.
Patriots be this naive to think that they could actually get away with that? Like being so open and blatant about the way that they went about it. And the hilarious thing is that they're caught against the worst team in the NFL with that story. It's
Yeah.
it's and so when you think about it in those terms, um, that's where the Patriots have to make their case as being like, are we really this naive? Are we really this dumb that we think we could get away with it? So,
Yeah.
oh man, but
Oh,
it's hilarious. It is so funny because your whole dynasty has an asterisk mark, the whole
yeah.
thing. Because I do think that Bill Belichick and what he's building, what they built, is a solid platform, and or not a
Hmm.
platform, but what they did was great. But at the same time, we don't know the extent that you did to win those games.
Yeah.
The Flake Gate, Spygate, Bengals Gate. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
Spygate too.
Spygate too. Yeah, it's man, it's just so funny because it's once again the Patriots, and it just adds fuel to your fire, being like, hey, like I don't like this team. Like
Yeah.
it's like, hey, like I think they've cheated this whole time, and then they go and have this story come out, and you just add to your conspiracy theory to that. So,
Hmm.
but man, watching that footage, the guys were talking about they call it B roll, and you're just trying to get additional. So when you're doing a story, you need to have something that you're going to cut to from the story. And so that's what the
Hmm.
guys were claiming that they were capturing. But if you watch the footage from Jay Glazer, but why do you need 10 minutes of that quote unquote B roll of
Yeah.
Cincinnati going on? Like, I do film for a living, and my B roll of getting different shots is literally 10 seconds. I need about a 10 to 20-second shot is about the extent to my B roll to what I'm cutting to. Um,
Yeah.
but the angle and what they were shooting was really it really brings up the questions of like what were you guys doing? It's
Yeah.
it's so weird, man, and they are definitely gonna get fined. Um, I don't know what you think. I think it's definitely warrants a possibly taking away some of their draft picks. I really do think that.
See, I'm thinking the NFL needs to really. The reason they keep doing this is because the NFL isn't finding them the way they need to be fined. They're like the Patriots come out and said, it was for that show, do your job. It was an independent contractor, but yet he's worked for Kraft Productions for 18 years, and so and then they're like, it was just for our show. If it was innocent and if it was just for the show, then why in the video does he say like I'll just delete this and we forget it happened? If you didn't do anything wrong, then why do you need to delete anything? And so I think the NFL needs to do more because they've already lost a first round draft pick for their cheating. They've been fined for their cheating. I honestly think, man, the NFL needs to do something drastic. And I like I've been looking at some fans punishments I think is um just unrealistic. But like I've seen some fans say like they need an entire postseason ban, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like that I feel that would be a little drastic. Some fans have said they need to lose their entire draft. Again, I think that's a little much. But what I will say is I was watching First Take or Undisputed, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is on the point of saying you can't see anything. If you're looking for the coaches doing their like signs and stuff, you can't see anything. Their backs to you. And Shannon Sharp's like, yeah, but it's still a rule, and they broke it. And and Shannon's also, Bill Belichick said that he knew nothing of this, and Shannon came to the point of when he played for Shanahan, he's like, there is nothing in Denver. If anything, whether it be front office, the production, anything, Coach Shanahan knew about it. And so, to his point, there is nothing that goes around that team that Belichick doesn't know. Okay. So, what I think needs to happen is they need to be fined, obviously. I think Belichick needs to lose his job because how are you going? I think every team cheats. New England's just bad about it and they get caught. Okay. But they've been doing this for so long that the NFL really just needs to come down with the band hammer and be like, you're gone. And just set an example, because I don't if you just take a draft pick, obviously that didn't deter them from doing it. If you find them, that doesn't deter them from doing it. You need to just cut the head off the snake and cast it out.
Yeah.
And to some that might be like overdoing it, like, oh well, Belichick may not know, but you know what? What's the best way to get teams to stop doing what they're doing? You get rid of their leader, and because I just don't see them stopping, honestly, until you do something that's just um, overboard.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and what's hard to think about is as we think about these New England's, like we think about their, like where we rate and where we put everybody, um it's always, and even it's hard for me because everybody goes around, Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. Like it's just unquestionable that Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. But to me, it's just, unfortunately, I and I keep going back thinking about, is it what do I need to look differently about this team? But it's just, it's hard to be, um to be for for this team when there are, like I said, I think this entire team and this whole entire dynasty has to be questioned, and is going
mm-hmm.
to be questioned, and that's what we're
Yep.
going to remember. Yeah, they were great, but we think they cheated to get there. And
Yeah.
yes, I believe that every 32 of the NFL teams have cheated.
Yeah.
Happens in college, it happens in the NFL, because you are made to do one thing. There's one thing, and that's winning.
Mm-hmm.
That'll sell tickets. That'll is what pays the bills. That
Mm-hmm.
is everything. Everything drives is about winning, and the
Yep.
whole, even the off season scandal with Robert Kraft and everything that went on with that too. Um, it's just, are the Patriots, will they just be known as just really bad at cheating? You know,
Yeah.
but I do firmly believe, me saying I'd be naive to say no. The Steelers, everything about the way that they went about was legit and legitimate. Same thing for the Chiefs. Everything that they went about is legit and
Yeah.
legitimate all the time. Because it's hard, because I read stories about some of them are heroes of coaching. And some of the things that I'm not really proud of either.
Yeah.
I think about, I'm a huge fan of Bear Bryant, believe in everything he did. But there was a story where he pulls out a jar, and I read, and everything is like people even denied this author that happened, but the author wrote it in this book about Bear Bryant. But he pulls out a jar and he tells all of his all of the alumni, drop your keys in it. I gotta go recruiting. So all there are the
Mm.
keys to their cars. He's like, put it in this bucket. I gotta go recruiting, you know.
Oh man.
And he's like, because that's we got to recruit, we got to win, and that happened to him at Texas A&M. But also, I don't know if what the rules were like and if what all that entailed either when Bear Bryant was doing that. But Bear
Yeah.
Bryant recruited either way, just like
Yeah.
any other guy. They recruit, man, and it's hard to think like that. And so that's what puts the NFL, the NCAA, and all these things in such hard positions. Because we do as the population, we all believe that they're all doing it in some way or another.
Mm.
It's just some teams are really bad at it, I think, apparently, and that would be
Yeah.
the Patriots.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
anyways,
encourage everyone, real quick. I encourage everyone. There's a website you can go to. It's called Your Team Cheats, and it has NFL. I'm pretty sure it has all the sports, and you can just see each team and where they rank on all the stuff they've been caught for. And oddly, the Broncos are actually the number one team that has cheated the most in the NFL. So if you question if your team is cheating or has cheated,
that's
go to that
awesome.
website.
I didn't know
It's
that existed. That's cool.
yeah, it's a pretty fun website to look at.
It's all for the
So
conspiracy theorists, like
yeah,
all the Raiders fans.
yeah,
That's where they
yeah.
all go to. All right,
Mhm.
college bowl season.
Let's go bowling.
Let's go bowling. We got a lot of great games coming up. Um,
Mhm.
great college playoffs. I think will be that we'll have. I think will be was a weird sentence, but I think will be good.
You're educated.
That's right. I got that paper. I'm telling you, man. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Um, um, I want to. I want to say Oklahoma's gonna give LSU a little bit more than what people are giving Oklahoma credit for.
You
Um,
think so?
I think so.
I think it's gonna be a blowout.
I I am a believer of Jalen Hurts. I want to see that Cinderella story happen. I want to
Yeah.
see LSU get beat. And I want to see Jalen Hurts do it. I've never cheered or rooted for the Sooners. This is the only time it will ever happen. After that,
Ah,
my dislike for the Sooners started in high school. That's when they were somewhat winning again with Adrian Peterson and Sam Bradford, and had
mhm.
all these Oklahoma fans going nuts.
Well,
Um,
yeah, we live in the Big 12 country here.
yeah. But once again, Oklahoma got beat though.
Yeah.
Got beat by Boise State. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
Yeah.
I know that LSU is gonna win, but I think Oklahoma will give them a little bit more than what people are expecting.
Yeah.
I I think it's only, I think it's gonna be a 10-point margin. I don't see LSU blowing them out though. I think I think LSU is going to get probably to about 38 points and try to hold it there and just see what they can do with their defense against Oklahoma.
I think
Um,
LSU's going to put 50 on them, and Oklahoma's not going to score more than 20. Like,
man,
Burrow is just a
you are
beast.
doubting my Jalen Hurts, man. Go on,
Yeah.
Jalen.
No, I'm not doubting Hurts. I'm doubting the rest of the team, and LSU is just too
Yeah,
good.
but
So,
how amazing would that be for as much as Jalen's been through and so much of his story. Like, how
oh yeah,
amazing would it be as if he took Oklahoma and won a national championship with him? Like
That would
that,
be amazing.
like it's one of those like you couldn't like everybody's like you don't write scripts about that stuff, man. Like you've got to if Jalen Hurts wins a national championship, you've got to start writing that movie script. Like right there, right then. After that game, you were like,
Mm-hmm.
that movie is coming out. Like
Yeah,
you
Peter
can't.
Berg,
Yeah,
write
yeah.
it.
You can't deny him
Yeah.
that movie, man. And um, so yeah, I'm not rooting for Oklahoma. I'm rooting for Jalen. That's my mind. That's perspective, Jamie. Remember that. I'm
Oh
not.
yeah, I
I'm
will.
not. I'm not rooting for Oklahoma. I'm rooting for Jalen. That's it. That's how I. That's my perspective this year.
That's
Um,
what you got to tell yourself to go to sleep, I
that's
guess.
that's right. I'm not voting for Oklahoma. I'm rooting for Jalen. That's it. Jalen.
Oh
Why
my
did they
gosh.
win the national? It's because of Jalen, not because of
Yep.
anything else. Not nothing. It's just Jalen. Jalen Hurts.
Wasn't CeeDee Lamb. It
No,
wasn't the
no, no,
coaching.
no,
No, it was
no,
Jalen.
no. You just stop it with all that. It's just Jalen.
Okay.
All right. So you got Ohio State, and you got Clemson.
Mhm.
That's going to be a really interesting game. Um, all the SEC people are going, man, we are because I like to sometimes listen to the Paul Feinbaum show, and all year long it's just been Clemson callers into that show. And then
Yeah.
the SEC fans be like, "You aren't even the SEC. You're just playing an ACC schedule, just barely making into it."
Yeah.
Um, but I think it'll be a great game. I do think Ohio State will end up winning that game. Um,
Ohio
it
State's the best team in college football right now, and Clemson is not ready for that at all. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like if I want Oklahoma to beat LSU, but I would disagree with you saying I do think LSU is probably the best team just based on who they played, just the SEC pedigree, the talent.
Yeah.
Um, so I will say LSU, even though I want Jalen to win, but but yeah, uh, but yes, I do think Ohio State will win that game.
Yeah.
Um, got a lot of other games going on. I'm trying to see on what we've got. We've got a whole. It's like you'll turn on the. What's cool about this season is that you could just turn on the TV and just be like, "Oh, I've never seen them play.
Yeah.
Ah, that
Yeah.
that team." And then you sit there for about 10 minutes and you're like, "Huh, all right, I'm moving on."
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of games are like that. Um, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M in the Academy
Hmm.
Sports Outdoors Texas Bowl game. That'll be a great
Yeah.
matchup. Um, really great job of putting that game together. Really don't
Hmm.
know who's going to win that, but um, with where some of the toughness of Texas A&M's schedule is part of the reasons for just their losses. But Texas A&M is an up and coming team for
Yeah.
sure in the SEC. Um,
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Iowa State will be a good matchup. I like
Hmm.
the Cotton Bowl Classic with Penn State versus Memphis.
Yeah.
Um,
I almost put that, but yeah, that's gonna be a good game too.
yeah. Um, Orange Bowl, Florida versus Virginia. I think Florida should handle themselves in that game, but that may end up being a
Yeah.
pretty good game. Uh, uh, Michigan, Alabama. Um,
Yeah. I've got that game down.
that'll
That'll
be
be a good one.
that'll actually be a very good game. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see some of the Alabama players. Two of the ones on defense. Fortunately, we need our defense, but two of the players are already sitting down for the draft. So I wonder if any more
Oh.
players will be doing that. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion in itself.
Yeah.
Um, you got Minnesota versus Auburn, Georgia versus Baylor. So you're getting some of these really seeing what um, the SEC to continue its dominance really needs to get a great bowl season in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what Alabama fans should be rooting for, SEC fans, because
Mm-hmm.
um, the SEC's reign of just saying, "Hey, we go through an SEC schedule, even with one or two losses," that may be coming to an end pretty soon with these up and coming
Yeah.
team like with Baylor and I'm not such a big fan, like a believer in Minnesota as everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, I'm not either. It
so
was cool watching them kind of jump up high in the rankings there for a little bit because I was like, yeah, man, you just don't see Minnesota up there,
yeah,
being ranked. And then, but it's not something that's like, oh yeah, they can go and beat, Clemson. They can go and beat Ohio State. It's like, no, we know you guys can't. So it was great to see them ranked and as high as they were, but it no, 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 no.
trying to see what
Um,
Oregon's game will be.
Theirs is I didn't write it
Oh
down,
yeah, it's
but it's going to
It's
be
the
a good one.
Rose Bowl game,
Rose Bowl,
Oregon
yeah,
versus
against
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a good game.
I've got San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl,
Wait, say
number
that again.
22, the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl. It's number 22 USC versus 16 Iowa
Okay.
on December 27th on FS1.
All
I think
right.
that'll be a good game. I also like if you guys want a good laugh, just go through the bowl games and
Yeah,
look at the names of some of these bowls. Oh, it's hilarious.
that was one of
There's
my.
just there's some that's just like, why are you a bowl game? It's
I don't
oh, it's
know.
great.
That one's one of my favorite. I love that. It's San Diego. Did you say county? Right.
Yeah, San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl.
I love it. I love it.
Oh yeah. Uh,
Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, Florida State versus Arizona State. Like no joke, man.
oh, that's great. I love
We've
it.
got our Red Box Bowl,
Oh my god.
California versus Illinois. Yeah,
Yep. Oh, I love it. I love it.
I love it too, man. I love Tony the Tiger. All
uh,
right. So moving on. Let's talk some NBA for a minute
okay.
here to wrap this thing up. A lot of interesting things going on. Jamie, and it's him would let you know that he's a Heat fan through and through. Um, Basketball's hard for me because I like the Heat. I like a lot. I don't. I root for the Heat because we went to a Heat game and Jamie's a Heat fan, so that's and
Yeah.
we both love Dwayne Wade. I think that's where both of our
Yes.
like. I was like, yeah, I can get on, but where he doesn't like me is as I also like the Spurs, which is held against me. But I do like some Popovich. I do like me some Spurs. So I will at times bring them up. Um, and yeah, and then um, originally I was a big Hornets fan, but they kept moving back and forth, and then Chris Paul left. But I still like,
Mhm.
hey, like there you go, Charlotte. Like way to add a boy, with Charlotte. But like, yeah, I like keeping tabs with the Spurs and the Heat because that was a lot of fun going to that Heat game.
Mhm.
And Dwayne Wade, we both love Dwayne Wade. So
Yep. We got to see him play.
yeah. Um, but and and for the NBA, I think the interesting thing about the NBA, and I don't know if you'd agree with me, disagree, but it's so much more about the player than the team. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like people will be a Steph Curry team, therefore I'll wear the Golden State stuff, or I'll be a LeBron James, and so I'll have the Cavalier Heat and the Lakers
Mhm.
stuff because I'm a LeBron
Yeah.
James fan. Same with Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard. That's the interesting thing about the NBA
Mhm.
that I don't think you see in the other sports so much, but that's
Mhm.
just my perspective. I think it's so much more of a player league than any of the other sports are. you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Like when Wade left Miami and went to Chicago where he's from, I followed Chicago for a little bit there because I was like, I still like followed. I love my Miami Heat, but I was like I kept tabs on Chicago because of Wade, and then when he left Chicago and went to Cavaliers to play with LeBron again, I followed Wade to the Cavaliers and followed his career there, which wasn't that long. It was like less than a year, and then he came back to Miami where he should have never left. And so, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. That um, fans are more uh, loyal to the players, I guess, than the team itself, I guess.
yeah,
And so yeah, I would totally agree with that.
yeah. Um, with that being said, there was so much change in this offseason to the NBA landscape. Like
Hmm.
everything's changed. Um, like just all the pieces that moved in the West. You've got what happened with the Lakers, LeBron and Anthony Davis, the Clippers. You've got Kawhi and Paul George.
Hmm.
Portland added some good pieces. It's not playing out for them right now. Houston added Russell Westbrook. So a lot
Hmm.
of movement happened to where we don't really have a clear like Golden State's going to win it this year or Golden State Cavaliers. Like there is no clear. We don't know, especially the East, especially the East.
Yeah.
Um, and in some regards, the West. I think you can predict so far for the West what I think the conference finals would look like. For the East, I really don't know. I really couldn't to this point could tell you. Um, I think what was the question? Who can beat the Lakers? Was that the
Well,
question we asked?
right now it's what happened to Golden State.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
That's why
that
I do the rundown.
that's we do the rundown. That's right. What happened to Golden State? A lot of things happened to Golden State. You have
Yeah.
Kevin Durant moves, um,
Hmm.
the the plethora of injuries this year with Steph Curry and Draymond Green and
Hmm.
Thompson, all out. Uh, the worst record. Somebody was saying the only reason that has kept attendance up and sold out attendance is everybody's checking out the new arena.
Hmm.
But it's weird. The funny thing is I do feel like I don't necessarily think that they'll tank, but next year will be completely different. I mean,
Yeah.
you get those pieces back, and you get a solid draft pick, or and make a couple trades for a big man that can make it. I think they definitely need a big man on the Golden State. So next year
Hmm.
will be completely different for Golden State. It's just a
Yeah.
year where everybody's been hurt. KD left. D'Angelo Russell, I think, is actually playing really well.
Hmm.
Is the only piece that they've got right now. They keep him next year. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's 1 year, but then next year Golden State's going to be back in the thick of it. I firmly believe that, and
Yeah.
you add so much shooting power back into it, but it's just you don't have star power. You don't have
Yeah.
any of that. People are saying it's coaching. It's Steve Kerr. I was like, well, Steve Kerr don't have nobody right now.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a player driven league. You need talent.
Hmm.
And they don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a Steve Kerr thing because Mark Jackson had an opportunity to do something with that team and it just didn't look the same until Steve Kerr got in there and made that offense really flow.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody's kind of looking at Kerr right now and it's really not that. It's legitimately, and you hate saying it's injury. I mean everybody's
Yeah.
gone. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, I do feel like next year is going to be a whole different ball game. Golden
Hmm.
State is going to be back in it.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. You hit it right on the head. I was looking at their players and who's leading in points, and I just don't recognize any of them. Like I just don't know who they are. And in the NBA, you have to have star power. You got to have a guy that everybody knows and gets the job done. I couldn't tell you who Eric Paschal is, or Willie Coley Steen, um, or Alec Burks. I don't know who that is, and that's no, it's not Steve Kerr, because look at whenever all their star power is there, nobody ever questions Steve Kerr because he has that team.
Yeah.
So no, this is not on Steve Kerr. This is they need to get healthy. They're gonna have a top 3 pick next year. uh, you're going to get one of the best players in the draft next year. You're going to get Curry back. You're going to get Green back. You're going to get Thompson back. Man, that is the West will be completely different next year,
Yeah.
because of that. And so I just it I brought this up. I brought this up today. Wanted to talk about this today because just the last couple years, Golden State has been the team in the West, and just to see them sitting at 5-23, it's just so weird,
It is
and it
weird.
just
It's
it
super
just
weird.
doesn't look right,
Yeah. I mean it. Um. Listen, it's just it it all started with that final series against Toronto. The injuries plagued them. Um,
Hmm.
questions about teams, what they should, how if players shouldn't or shouldn't play. The front office is questioned.
Hmm.
But like I said, it's all going to be different next year, and you've got to make sure. Don't I hate to see team and that's why they probably need to change every draft the way that we do drafts to reward teams for losing. But to be honest with you, I'm not playing. I want Steph to be more than 100%. I
Yeah.
want Draymond. I want Tristan Thompson to be more than 100% because, like I said, they get another big man. If there's somebody in the draft this year or some trade or something like that, they add a big man to their squad, it's going to be game changing. I mean,
Hmm.
it'll literally, the team can come back and will come back. I mean, that's scary,
Yeah.
because all the other teams have kind of divided themselves up. But if there's a way that they can hold this trio together with D'Angelo Russell,
Hmm.
that's a scary thought, man.
Yeah.
Because they could be right back in it. You got Tristan Thompson, Stephen Curry, D'Angelo Russell, Draymond
Hmm.
Green, and you add
Hmm.
another crucial big man. Like, man, that's
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that, they're back in it for sure
Yeah.
next year. So, um, but like you said, it's so weird seeing them down
Mm.
so far down in just
Yeah.
in just a couple months. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And moving on to the Lakers, and that's
Yeah.
a great segment into the Lakers. I firmly believe this is their best opportunity to get a championship. This
Hmm.
year is so up in the air, but they've got to try to get it done this year because of the
Hmm.
reason I just said. Is you will have Golden State coming back. You will have Houston at full strength. You will have the Clippers at full strength. You will always
Hmm.
have to deal with Portland. And you don't know if Portland adds a piece to make
Hmm.
that a complete team. You got
Yeah.
Utah with Devin Mitchell. This is the Lakers' year.
Yeah.
And the
I would
question,
agree.
are they the best team? I honestly don't think they are. I would say right now it's the Clippers. I like the duo of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. What are you
Hmm.
going to do defensively to match up against that? Because what happens against the Lakers and Clippers, Patrick Beverly actually can go out there and guard LeBron. That's how good Patrick Beverly is at point
Yeah.
guard. Um, and you've got so much more depth. You got Jeff Green. You've got a lot of great pieces coming off the bench. The Lakers, besides their starting five, they don't have depth. Depth is going to be their biggest crutch this year, in my opinion. And that's
Mm,
why I like the Clippers, even though the record's different. But the record also is with LeBron going absolutely insane,
yeah.
MVP year, showing
Hmm.
everybody he ain't done yet, um, and out for vengeance and doing only the things that LeBron does. And he looks great at point guard, you know.
Yeah.
But I like the Clippers. I like I said, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Patrick Beverly up there on defense. It's going to be hard pressed to stop them. You then come back on the offensive side. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are prolific at it, because they're both two-way players.
Yeah.
And so the depth of the Clippers, the organization with Doc Rivers, got a lot of great things going on for the Clippers, and so that's why. And even though the record doesn't, I mean, 20-8 is still a great record at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's where I haven't. And like I said, the whole season starts over in the playoffs, and so
Yeah.
that's my outlook at this. What is your star power? What are the matchups? And in my head, the matchups work better in favor for the Clippers when you put them against the Lakers.
Yeah.
Um, and but you have two guys and Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and the only team I really think that can beat them in a 7 game series is the Clippers.
Yeah.
I don't think Houston can beat LA in a 7 game series. I don't think Dallas in a seventh game series, the Mavericks with Luka Doncic, can beat them because it's just him,
Yeah.
in a 7 game series. So that's where I'm at with it. What's your perspective of the situation?
I mean, yeah, whenever I'm like trying to break down NBA teams, I'm always looking at, well, yeah, you can that team can probably beat them once, but how they going to do in the playoffs? And I think the Clippers are probably their biggest threat in beating them in the playoffs. But there's not very many after that. The only team Miami almost they came to Miami. They were Miami's first loss at home this year, and they barely beat Miami. The only team, but other than Miami, because I'm incredibly biased, the only team that I believe can beat the Lakers in a 7 game series is Milwaukee, the Clippers. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, I love this season of the NBA because if I feel like all those super teams are gone. You've got teams that just have that 1 to 2 players
yeah,
that are just beast.
yeah,
And you know, it seems more balanced this year than it has in years
definitely.
past. And so I'm actually getting really into the NBA this year because it's just like the last couple of years you were just like, well, Golden State, they're going to win this, or the Cavaliers, or to my pleasure, the Miami Heat are going to win it all this year with Bosh, Wade, and James. But I feel like the super teams are kind of done now, and it's definitely just has more of a balanced feel to it. But the Lakers, I feel, we talked about it a little bit before the show. The Lakers, their star power is their starting players. They don't have much to depth behind them, and they've got some good situational players like Kuz, but if you, I worry about the Lakers down a stretch in a very close game where you're going to rely on your bench players. I keep talking about Miami, but like in the finals, Miami had Mike Miller, they had Ray Allen, they had Haslam, they had guys that could step in, Chalmers, they had guys that could step in and make an impact when Wade, James, and Bosh weren't out there. And I
Yeah,
don't feel like the Lakers, as of right now, has that. Now, when the trade, I feel like they're going to trade for somebody that will help them in that. Um, but I feel if it gets down to the nitty gritty, I I think teams that are have more depth are going to outmuscle them, and which I just think would be an interesting basketball game, if I'm being honest, and I will definitely be
Yeah,
watching that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's the yeah, depth is what kills you.
hmm
That's what we saw against kind of the super teams as well. The one year
hmm
even the Cavaliers beat the Golden State Warriors. They had some
yeah,
depth, and I think they had better depth than the Warriors did than their starting five when they beat them.
yeah,
Same thing happened with the Spurs when they beat Miami.
hmm
The whole team just had depth.
yeah,
You couldn't catch a break against the Spurs and just how well they played together.
yeah,
Um, and and that series actually is the reason I became more of a fan of the Spurs because I had never seen the game played at such a high team level.
yeah.
And I think anybody watching that series could appreciate that. Um, just
No,
that's the way that they pulled together as a team and won that, and not about the superstar power. Um,
yeah,
yeah, and so and then finally ending with kind of the East and looking at where we're at. I know your bias is for Miami, but you got Milwaukee, you've got Philadelphia, and that's my biggest fear when I'm looking at this is my biggest fear for Miami, or my biggest concern is when you get to the playoff time, do they have enough for Philadelphia and Milwaukee and even possibly Boston?
yeah,
Um, that's kind of my and that's what I think Heat fans are at because you really don't know.
yeah,
It's great. You could say developing. We got Jimmy Butler, but you know the like I keep going back and I reiterate it. You could end the season and Miami being the third seed, they get by the first round. The next two rounds, I couldn't tell you if Miami could get by, just based because really where talent and star power come out are those last two rounds of the playoffs.
yeah,
And so that's my biggest thing with Miami. But I just went back to team play. That's Miami's greatest asset compared to, I would say, probably right now the 76ers or Boston. I think Milwaukee's team play is right up there with their win streak,
yeah.
where they're at. And with Giannis, Giannis is
hmm
just a whole nother animal or beast,
Yeah,
of a guy. So, you know,
yeah,
I that's kind of my biggest struggle for
yeah,
Miami and where they're at. So the East is definitely just I have no idea. Um,
yeah,
because in the playoffs last year the Bucks showed their weaknesses and Giannis wasn't the same. And so that could be different this year because his 3-point shot has been getting a lot better.
yeah,
So that's where I'm at, kind of with the East and the Heat. Where I think things are playing at is, do you've got enough? Does Miami got enough to get them past that point of just saying we're more than just winning the first playoff round.
yeah.
We've got enough to make it.
I think Miami's big thing right now is they've got a lot of young players, and seeing them grow and develop as the season goes forward um, will be very, very interesting. Butler is kind of just taken over this team, and it has definitely a different attitude than it did last year.
Right.
Um, and I love that. Are they the best team in the East? No. Not well, at least not right now. See them
Right.
play Milwaukee again. And I they've got a game coming up against Philadelphia. Um, it, I don't see this being as Miami's year. I think they're a team. They're a very physical team, and I don't feel like any team's going to really want to play them,
Right.
because they're going to take. They're gonna. It's. They're. You're not going to blow them out. Blow them out. I've seen has been extremely close, and so it's gonna be interesting, and I'm gonna be very Tyler Hero right now. I think he definitely, when we're talking at the end of the season about who the rookie of the year is, Hero has to be in that, and so does Nunn. Nunn has been a beast for the
Right.
Heat,
Yeah.
and so it's the future is very promising. I don't think we
Right.
can measure up to those West teams right now, but the future with Butler, Hero, Nunn, Bam, it's gonna be. I have a feeling that it's gonna be better, and we're definitely gonna get more of these, and it's so. Yeah, man, I'm excited. But right now in the East, it's Milwaukee and then everybody else,
Yeah.
And this is just really interesting in an NBA season.
It's
I'm
I
loving
feel
it.
like I would feel like Miami's one guy away. I don't know what
Mm,
who that guy is or who you can
yeah,
pull from the West to come join the Heat in a
mm,
weaker East, but I really do feel it's one guy. It's
yeah,
one star power away from it, and for them
yeah,
to really make their push in the East because the East is so winnable and that's what's going to be next year is going to be the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
mm-hmm,
They're going to be one of the favorites too, so it doesn't get any easier for Miami. Um,
yeah,
so what brings them past the first playoff round is going to be really interesting, and that's where I'm kind of at
mm-hmm,
with this team. But who knows? I mean, they could go on a run like the Spurs did. That young
yeah,
talent like Kawhi Leonard had his coming out party. It could be that kind of situation too. So because I don't think anybody knew that the Spurs were gonna have that in them 2 years in a row that they did it. So
yeah,
um, anyways, but yeah, but a lot of Christmas is the tall tale sign of where everything is at. So it'll be really interesting to see the rest of this NBA season pan out. So,
yeah. I agree.
anyways, yeah. So from Jamie and I, we wish you all a Merry Christmas. We went a little bit longer tonight, but we just had a lot of fun talking about it with y'all. Always
Yeah,
leave us a note in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking, what you agree, what you disagree, what you want us to talk about. Please let us know. Um, I know we may get some comments about our Patriots talk, but that's genuinely the way that we feel. No, that's genuinely the way
bring
that
it.
we feel. So just let us know, man. And it's gonna be it. It really has. It's been a really fun NFL season. Wish some things change on the college season, but it's been interesting to see how the college season's played out.
Yeah.
Gonna have a great NBA season. My Blues came back and beat the Blackhawks, so really having a lot of good sports
Yeah.
going here. All right, so Jamie, got anything?
No, just thanks for watching, guys. We love you. We love the sport. Keep watching. If there's anything you guys want us to talk about, man, just don't hesitate. Let us know. We're here for you. We want to entertain you guys and get you guys involved. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
All right, we will see you guys later.